Treasurer Jim Chalmers will hand down his second budget 3 weeks from today. It comes in the context of high inflation and the weakest economic growth since the early 1990s. Ahead of the budget, Deloitte has downgraded its economic outlook even further, now forecasting what it calls a consumer recession in 2023. Well, to tell us exactly what that means and to look more at the forecasts, let's bring in Dr. Pradeep Phillip from Deloitte Access Economics. Thanks for your time, Dr. Phillip. What exactly is a consumer recession?
Good to be with you, Andrew. Look, there are a number of things that we're seeing that point to a slowing economy, and the area that is slowing enormously is household spending. We think household spending at the end of this year will be less than what it started with, which is why we call it a consumer recession. But a couple of things to note. Household spending is about 60% of kind of consumption in the economy. It's a really important part, and it's being hit. It's being hit because mortgage holders have been hit. There's a rental squeeze going on. Real wages have been negative. Cost of living pressures are there. And it's not just households and consumers. Investment in Australia is nowhere near what it should be. And really importantly, Andrew, we don't see living standards measured by GDP per capita going anywhere over the next 3 years. Now, these things are not of the making of the last kind of 2-3 months. They're decades in the making, and this is why we're sounding the alarm bells.
Well, this report says the Reserve Bank's 10 straight rate hikes have put the economy on a knife's edge and that households are really hurting, as you just said. Are you saying the Reserve Bank has gone too far? Well,
a couple of months ago, probably in December, we had argued that it was time to pause to see what the effects of the previous 8 rises would do to the economy. We've seen even in minutes from the Reserve Bank in February and March this year that they hadn't seen the effects of interest rates from last year fully flowing through. So we thought it was a cautionary move back in December for the Reserve Bank to pause. And I think the slowing economy is testament to the fact that interest rates are biting. And so we want to make sure that, given the track records of central banks to generally overshoot, that we thought it was important that it paused a couple of months ago.
Household spending has remained reasonably strong despite the high inflation and those rate rises, but you're now looking at a pretty strong drop-off over the next 12 months. Do you put that simply down to the effect of interest rates and people coming off those fixed loans?
That is a significant part of it, and by using the Reserve Bank's own kind of method of calculation, we think that already about 300,000 Australians are in a negative income cash flow situation where their mortgage expenses and the living expenses are ahead of where their income is. And we think there's more to go, especially as all those fixed income mortgage holders come off onto variable and face this massive increase in their repayments. But it's not just people on mortgages, Andrew, it's people who are renting. We are not having enough housing supply keep up with population growth, and that is set to continue.
Now, the report describes Australia's economy as dancing with a downturn. Jim Chalmers keeps saying he's confident that despite everything happening around the world, we can avoid a recession. I guess commodities are at the heart of that. Do you think he's right?
Look, and Australia has been the lucky country for lots of reasons. And commodity prices have been feeding the Australian government coffers for a while, and we think there is still a bit more to go. But commodity prices is not a, relying on high commodity prices is not a strategy. And already we're seeing in key commodities prices coming off. So it's really important that as the Treasurer looks at the budget, that we work hard to get the budget in order, that the budget's got to do its bit, not add to inflationary pressures, but focus this budget on investment. This is going to be critical for building the productive capacity of the economy. That's what we need to improve living standards in the future, Andrew.
Well, we know there are cost of living measures coming in the budget, including the power price relief. That's been flagged for months. How careful does the government need to be so it doesn't make inflation even worse?
They've got to be very careful, Andrew. These things, as you know, giving people relief is really important from a good social perspective and from an economic perspective because it keeps them spending money in the economy. But we have to get the structural elements of this economy right. We need to stimulate investment. We need to stimulate business to be investing in new capital, to make sure this energy transition takes place at pace, and to invest in skills and innovation. If we don't get that right, then living standards will not improve. The current situation we face, Andrew, is decades in the making. Productivity has been falling for 2 to 3 decades now, and we are now seeing the consequence of that. We need this budget and we need business on side to invest to lift productivity for this economy.
Dr. Pradeep Phillip, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.